I can remember when they were going to knock down this building because it was virtually derelict. So there are some pictures somewhere of women in hard hats who came and they literally brought the building back to life. It was originally set up by a very small group of local Manchester women who were concerned about the lack of services and support for women and girls that were coming forward to say they'd had experiences of sexual violence. We've got a range of services now. We've got our crisis helpline, which is open every day. We also have a counselling service and is different from most counselling services in that we don't stipulate the number of sessions that a woman can have, so she can come for as long as the relationship with her counsellor is therapeutic and it's helping her. Statistically, it's unlikely that a woman does make a report to the police. The Home Office have suggested that fewer than 15% of rape victims ever report what's happened to them to the police, and that's reflected in the women that we see. Most women don't report, but those that do, the Independent Sexual Violence Advisors role acts as a kind of buffer between the woman and the criminal justice system to support that woman at every opportunity to stay within the system if she can. They might not necessarily want justice in the sense of they don't necessarily want to go to court, but what they do want is they want services that recognise what's happened to them and help them come through that experience, and that doesn't always mean that they want to go to court or they want somebody arrested, and she should be able to make those decisions for herself and get the support that she wants, not what other people think she needs.
It's a group, women that come into that group has either had sexual abuse, in childhood, or as an adult has either been raped or also domestic violence. I mean, it kind of, everything merges into each other. I suppose the underlying thing and the difference between this group and other groups is the South Asian element of it. There are lots of issues that are relevant to this group that might not be to other groups. From the research that we did, there wasn't masses in the city for specifically South Asian women, and so that's why we set it up. It's about self-development, it's about building, the confidence of individuals, of women that have come in. Usually it's one of the biggies, where the confidence is on the floor, they've lost trust, in the system, in people. Second part is raising their awareness of services out there. If you create a safe space where they know they can come and trust, they will talk. You can just see, the shift in women that come and they are on the floor, and you just see, the confidence rising as time goes on, and it's just great.
I've become a stronger person. I've opened up. At first I couldn't trust anyone for different reasons what we've been going through.
The reason why I come to it's a South Asian women's group, and I think a lot of us are here, is because you know that there's other people who understand your cultural, your religious background, and they know what you're exactly going through.
If the group didn't exist, I don't know where I would have been.
Women's Aid, nationally and in Manchester, was originally begun by service users themselves fleeing domestic violence, found a house, squatted in it, eventually got funding for it. So in Manchester there were several independent women's aids. The women's aids came together and formed Manchester Women's Aid. People present with many complex issues, some of which are related to the domestic violence, some of which aren't, but we try and have a holistic service that deals with all of those issues. And we have a food bank, and we run refuge services. We have a clothing bank, we run 2 drop-ins. So we do try and make this centre a women and girls space that is safe and lots of good things going on.
You go with the clothes on your back, you just get out. And you don't know where you're going, for one thing, that's pretty scary. And you lose a lot of things, you lose your friends because you're not in the area, obviously, where your perpetrator of the violence towards you is. They move you out. So you lose that social circle that you've got. Because don't forget, you've got a house full of things, fridge, telly, you've got nothing. And it's just such a shock. So that has a knock-on effect on your nerves and your stress levels. You tend to blame yourself. And also I think you feel guilty because you let it go on for so long. And then you think, well, why did I do that? Half of it's embarrassment. The other half is fear. So the positives of coming here are really, you meet other people and you realise that they feel the same, and you realise that, hang about, it wasn't my fault at all.
I was put on the street because the house where I was living, it wasn't in my name, it was in his name. Without no clothes, all my clothes, them and take them and put them in the bin. I come to the food bank, I have the food bank downstairs, and I come here now to the drop-in because it's handy. Because when you get the food, you can just come to the drop-in. There are so many women going through different difficulty. Some people, they don't want to speak out, but I will speak out because I need help.
I've been coming here now about 7 years. The lady that used to be in charge of us, she just asked me and my friend if we'd like to help out, and we did. Since then we've been volunteers.
So we started doing a clothes bank. A lot of people starting to struggle for money and said that there was a shortfall buying food and was struggling. So we decided to just start having non-perishable foods to start off with. And over the 2.5 years we've been running, we've just sort of evolved from offering clothes to now offering food, clothes, baby items, anything that's needed really. We support women from very wide backgrounds. If they'd left a violent relationship, they generally left all the stuff behind them. Generally, the women are referred to as working with organisations, women from women's aid organisations, local health visitors, NHS organisations like Family Nurse Partnership. We do get some self-referrals, so women might hear about us, know about the centre and just present themselves. Very wide mix. So we're carrying on them deeds, not words, aren't we? By doing as much as we can, where we can.
We came out of HIV and AIDS work in the 80s, so there was a recognition that there were women there who needed condoms, needed needle exchange and so on. So it was harm reduction around HIV and AIDS. As the service developed and the volunteers that were involved originally got to know the women, we realised that actually there were a lot more complex needs than just the basic harm reduction. So we grew from there. Started out doing outreach on a van at night, which is what we've always done. So we've always gone to where the women are and made sure our services are available at the times that people need them.
I used to go to this van that was at the top of Fairfield Street to get condoms, a hot drink and a biscuit. If I was sleeping on sofas, dealers' sofas. I particularly remember a time when I got attacked out there. I knew straight away where to come. I knew who would listen. The guy who attacked me, I got a conviction from it. So if it wasn't because of my engagement with MASH, that wouldn't have happened, I don't think. I do volunteering for MASH. I like to bring awareness to MASH. I'm working on the fundraising team. I've always come back here to offer my help.
You know, they might just come into the drop-in as a safe place, somewhere to get warm, have a hot drink. But as you get to know people, then they'll open up, and then we're able to actually help people to address some of those bigger issues, not just on our own, but often with partner agencies as well. So to try and give a holistic service really to the women rather than them having to go around to lots of different agencies.
It was set up by a group of young Asian women and some activists in the community who used to meet up at the South Manchester Law Centre, and they were presented with a lot of such serious domestic abuse going on. There were no provisions available for Asian women at that time, so they decided they will come together and set something up, and which they did. They set up a semi-detached house, and they had lots of goods donated to them initially, and they used to have beddings on the floor, and it moved on from there. So Saheli is now a purpose-built refuge, providing one-to-one telephone support as well and support in person. We also deliver a lot of training to frontline professionals. So the women who come to us, often mental health needs is one of the highest presentation that we see. A lot of women are self-harming. By the time they've reached us, they are in a very difficult situation. Many of the women can't speak the language. They don't know how the systems work. Often they are not even allowed to go to the doctors on their own. So this kind of oppression, where you're constantly mentally excluded from making friends or finding sources of help, can make a woman's life really difficult. I think they get an understanding from the staff, you know, who understand the culture, and we have grown up in our communities knowing how oppression and how issues like forced marriage can have a very serious implications for young people. It kind of transforms her. She finds a space where she's being heard, where she's not being played, people are not judging her.
हम ये कह रहे कि हमें बता रहे हैं कि हम अकेली नहीं हैं, हम आगे बढ़ रहे हैं, कि हमारे अंदर से दर्द और जो खौफ है ना वो निकल रहा है और हम अपने पाँव में खड़ी हो रही हैं और आगे बढ़ने की.
We were very scared before because all whatever happened to us, but with the help of Saheli, now we are feeling much more confident because we lost all our confidence before. And
like a family. Saheli jo hai like a family.
Saheli staff is just like a family to us, and they are supporting us, they are giving us help and emotional help as well.
What happened was LGBT Foundation, previously was called the Lesbian and Gay Foundation. It's always done work for lesbian and bisexual women, but what we noticed was that we had fewer service users who were women, and women reported to us that they felt isolated, that they felt our services were more for men, and they felt their support needs were not being met by the services that we had. So what we basically did was set up a specific women's programme looking at how we as an organisation could better meet the needs of lesbian and bisexual women, and also how we could work with other organisations to ensure that they understood what lesbian and bisexual women wanted. And what we tried to do, whilst we can't provide specialist support around certain issues like domestic abuse, is work with service providers who do provide that support to make sure that any women who are coming in contact with us or any lesbian and bisexual women are getting that support. In terms of issues like mental health, drug misuse, homelessness, there is some evidence that for some of those issues there is a disproportionate effect on the LGBT community.
You leave the session feeling elated, you know, you've got new friends, there's no animosity, everybody accepts everybody for who they are, and there's people willing to listen, to support you, to help you.
YN established in 1988. For a very small group of the women, they can't speak English. They met quite a lot of students from Hong Kong. Those students helping YN to establish with about 65 nationality working a group of in the society. Nobody care about them. They had the mental health issue, job issue, asylum seeker, refugee, new migrant, unemployed, you name it. A lot of the mental health issue get access to health and social care. It's under the carpet, but 3 years ago we take over the welcome center, we work, and the staff and volunteer at YN are fantastic. When people ask me what the one thing YN successful, I think it's the staff and volunteer.
We were originally set up by a woman called Chris Tchaikovsky, who'd actually had experience of being in prison herself in Holloway, and she was really shocked by her experiences and by the lack of support that was available to her and other women leaving prison on release. She believed then, and really core to the organisation still today, is that the criminal justice system was set up for men, by men, and as such it just doesn't meet the needs of women. So we've existed since 2010 in Manchester now, and we were set up off the back of the Corston report. One of the main recommendations from the Corston report was that the needs of female offenders are best met in gender-specific, community-based centres. We were also able to provide a service to women that are considered at risk of offending. Whilst that's not a term that we particularly like, what that means for us is that we're able to support all vulnerable women, and we don't have to wait for women to actually get caught up in the criminal justice system.
That is there to represent the underrepresented, and that is something that I've felt throughout my whole life. Issues that have affected me growing up, it filtrated into my adulthood.
What we try and do is we try and provide a one-stop shop for female offenders, and we do that because if you are in receipt of a number of different services, which lots of our women are, and you're living quite a chaotic lifestyle, it can be incredibly difficult for you to keep up with all those appointments, even for you to remember all the different professionals that you're supposed to be seeing. Having things like our drop-in, where women don't have to, identify lots of needs on the doorstep, but can just come in for the social aspects of it and start to meet new people, start to get familiar with an organisation. Then when they've built up that trust, then they can start to ask for the help that they need, and then they can sort of say, oh, actually, you know, I could do with some help around this, or actually I am having problems with one of my partners. And that's something that they might not have been able to do if they'd have had to sort of disclose all that walking straight in.
Even though lots of women past few weeks so quiet, didn't talk anything, then suddenly they talk, they find more confidence now. All the women helping each other. I can speak now. I feel like me again.
At our drop-in and at some of the drop-ins that we help the CRC run, we bring together probation staff, alcohol services, drug services, mental health services, housing, ourselves. We have other agencies like solicitors that come down really regularly. It means multi-agency working actually becomes a meaningful reality rather than just a buzzword that gets thrown around all the time. You can share information on the spot, you build up relationships with those other people that are supporting the same woman you are, and that's better for everybody.
Safe to Sisters came out of some volunteers at the helpline, one of which was me, and had experience working in refuges and working in the domestic violence kind of sector, that there was a big gap where women who were no recourse public funds or had insecure immigration status or what we would call undocumented women were extremely vulnerable. They were on the margins of society, so when they experienced domestic abuse they were afraid to come forward because of their immigration status, but also because a lot of services were telling them that they had no rights. So we set up Safety for Sisters in order to start campaigning and raise awareness about these very vulnerable women. We've moved on, we do campaigning and we do awareness raising. So what we wanted to do was to start actually doing some work with women rather than just campaigning, because their needs were so acute. And the way we wanted to work was to look at all the intersecting needs of the women. So it wasn't just about their gender and domestic violence, it was about race, it was about immigration. A lot of the women now, they have issues around the mental health and physical health and disability, and it's all those that we try and look at what the women's needs are and try and address all of them. And the main barrier to women getting safety was their immigration. So we try and advocate for women to social services, to housing, to maybe the police, maybe other women's services, to try and get them to look at safety before they look at immigration. So it's not like a service where they come in, get it and walk out. What they're doing is finding there's lots of other women in this situation, I can teach them a bit, they can teach me a bit, and we kind of facilitate that so it's an empowering experience, not just receiving.
WAST has been there for 10 years. We are all part of the management are also women asylum seekers. As you see, as we have different responsibilities of doing some with the food parcel, others are with the meet and greet for the new members. Like me and my colleague, we deal with the choir.
We want Rosa to stay. We want Rosa to stay. We want Rosa to stay. Not just today or tomorrow, but forever.
We have some people to translation this language. For example, any people came here and different language, we have some people to help them the same language.
We are always there for them. We go to courts together. We support one another in everything.
I think what makes it powerful because we are all in the same situation. So when we talk to the members, they understand us more because we are in the same boat. So we relate to them as ourselves as well.
We empower each other.
Na emruz, na fardo, hamishe. We want Rosa.
Women-specific services can respond to need in a way that generic services cannot.
It has to be a safe service for women that don't feel that they can go somewhere. A lot of our women that come here wouldn't go to a supermarket because they don't go to a mixed environment to start off with. They've just gone through trauma.
I think it's a way to model to women who maybe have had their self-confidence wrecked, that actually, women can do things, we're capable.
And it's an opportunity to celebrate women's success, whether it's a woman who has survived abuse, or it's the workers who've transformed lives, or it's organizations that are giving a lifeline.